Hello, and welcome back to the Midnight Fire. Settle in, turn down the lights, and let the darkness be your companion. Tonight's story is called The Whisper in the Fog. Liam had always found solace in the wild. He was an experienced hiker, a man who felt more at home with the rustle of leaves than the hum of a city. That's why he chose the Redwood National Park for his week-long solo trek. He wanted to lose himself, to disconnect completely. The ancient, towering trees were like silent gods, their canopies so dense they created a perpetual twilight on the forest floor. He'd be careful, of course. He always was. He had his map, his compass, his supplies, and a satellite phone for emergencies. What could possibly go wrong? The first 2 days were bliss. The air was crisp, the solitude was profound, and the only sounds were the cawing of crows and the gentle sigh of the wind through the colossal branches. He felt his worries melt away, replaced by a simple, primal contentment. On the third morning, however, he woke to a different world. A thick, unnaturally dense fog had rolled in overnight. It wasn't the usual morning mist that burned off with the sun. This was a heavy, suffocating blanket of white that clung to everything, reducing visibility to just a few feet. It felt cold, damp, and strangely watchful. Liam checked his compass and map, recalibrating his sense of direction. The trail should be straightforward, even in this, but the fog played tricks on the eyes and ears. Sounds were muffled, distorted. A snapping twig could be a deer or something else entirely. Distances became impossible to judge. After what felt like hours of walking, he felt a growing unease. The landscape, which should have been changing, seemed eerily the same. The same cluster of ferns, the same gnarled root system, crossing the path. He stopped, a cold knot tightening in his stomach. He was walking in circles. That's when he first heard it, a whisper. It was faint, carried on the damp air, so soft he thought he might have imagined it. It sounded like a single drawn-out word, but the fog stole its clarity, leaving only a sibilant hiss. He froze, straining to listen. Silence. Just a drip-drip of condensation falling from the leaves. He shook his head. Just the wind, he muttered, his own voice sounding loud and intrusive in the quiet. He pushed on, trying to shake the feeling of being watched, but the whisper returned. This time it was closer, clearer. A soft, breathy sound, just at the edge of his hearing. It wasn't the wind. The wind has no cadence, no intention. This sound felt deliberate. It seemed to come from all directions at once, a phantom voice echoing in the dense white. He called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" His voice was swallowed by the fog, and the only reply was the whisper, which seemed to mock his shout with its quiet persistence. Fear, a cold and unfamiliar companion, began to creep into his heart. He was alone, lost, and something was out there with him. He quickened his pace, his boots sinking into the soft, damp earth. The whispering grew more frequent, a constant, insidious murmur that seemed to coil around him. He couldn't make out words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was beckoning, enticing. It promised something. Warmth, safety. It was a siren's call in the heart of the woods. He clamped his hands over his ears, trying to block it out, but the sound was no longer just external. It was inside his head, a thought that wasn't his own. He stumbled, catching himself on the rough bark of a redwood. His breath came in ragged gasps. Panic was setting in. He had to get out of the fog. He abandoned the trail, hoping to break the circular pattern he was trapped in. He thrashed through dense undergrowth, ferns and branches whipping at his face. The whispering followed, a relentless parasitic presence. It was changing, its pitch shifting, sometimes low and guttural, sometimes high and wheezing. He could almost discern words now, fragments of a language he didn't understand but felt in his bones. It was ancient, primal, and full of a terrible, yearning hunger. Then he saw it, a shape in the fog. Tall and gaunt, it stood unnervingly still just at the edge of his vision. It was humanoid, but its limbs were too long, its posture impossibly crooked. He couldn't see a face, just a silhouette against the white. He froze, his heart hammering against his ribs. The whispering stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, waiting. Liam knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the core, that this was the source of the voice. He didn't scream. The sound was trapped in his throat. He slowly, deliberately, began to back away. The figure remained motionless. 1 step, 2 steps. He turned and ran. He ran blindly, recklessly, fueled by pure adrenaline. He didn't care about direction anymore. He just needed to put distance between himself and that thing. The whispering erupted behind him, no longer a soft murmur but a cacophony of overlapping voices, a chorus of malevolent invitations. They promised him an end to his fear, an end to his struggle. They promised him peace. He tripped, sprawling hard onto the forest floor. The impact knocked the wind out of him. Lying there, gasping for air, he knew it was over. The whispering swirled around him, caressing, insistent. He looked up, and through a momentary break in the fog, he saw the figure standing over him. It had no face, just a smooth, pale expanse of skin, where features should have been, but he could feel its gaze. He could feel its ancient, patient hunger. The world began to spin, the whispers weaving a cocoon of sound around him. His last conscious thought was not of fear, but of a strange, terrifying acceptance. The next week, a park ranger found Liam's abandoned campsite. His tent was neatly set up, his supplies untouched. They launched a search party, but the forest was vast, and the early autumn fogs were notoriously thick. They found his backpack a mile from the trail, and his satellite phone, smashed, a few yards from that. But of Liam they found no trace. Some of the older rangers, men who had spent their lives in these woods, spoke in hushed tones of the fog caller, an old legend the local tribes used to warn their children. A spirit that lured the lost with promises, whispering to them until they willingly walked into the mist, never to be seen again. They say on quiet, foggy days, if you listen very closely, you can still hear it. A soft, beckoning whisper looking for its next companion. Thank you for joining us at the Midnight Fire. If tonight's tale sent a chill down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay safe and be wary of what whispers in the dark.